I'm Richard Weaver. I work as a community organiser with Citizens Cymru Wales. One of the things that we have been heavily involved in over the last few years has been around welcoming Syrian refugee families, initially through the sort of the VPRS or the council-led programme, but then also through a community-led programme called Community Sponsorship. And you're going to hear lots more from Kimi Frengler, who works for Sponsor Refugees, which is part of Citizens UK, and from Angela Cooper, who's going to talk about the experience of a group local to us in Cowbridge, who have been successfully running through this process of how to welcome a refugee family locally, where the community plays the lead. So Citizens does something called community organising. And to be able to do community sponsorship really well, you need to do community organising really well. You need to be really organised. And you're going to hear lots more from people with lots more expertise than me. So I won't say any more for now, but just to say it's brilliant to see you, all of you. And I think as we start to build and grow this group, looking forward to supporting you and accompanying you along this process.
Lovely. Should we give ourselves just a brief sort of 30-second introduction, because I know there's new people here to the group. So my name's Reverend Rosemary Hill. Some people call me Mother Rose. I'm vicar here in Pontyclun, Talygarn and Llanharry, and I was approached by Richard Weaver when I first started here about doing stuff with citizens, which I jumped on. And one of the reasons why we're doing community sponsorship is that in our first meeting, some of my congregation suggested that they might like to welcome a refugee family. So we've sort of started the ball rolling and hopefully it'll happen. So there we go. So Shelley.
Oh, thanks. Do you want to introduce me instead?
Nah, you carry on, lovely.
Okay, so Rose kind of asked me to come along because I work for the Shaw Trust, which is a nationwide organisation. And basically what we do is we kind of challenge inequality and break down barriers to kind of enable social mobility. So I'm currently working with ex-offenders and helping them with their employability skills, so getting them back into the job market. But the Shaw Trust also has offices in Wales as well, I think Neath and Bridgend. So I can kind of bring some skills to the group, if possible, if employability bits and pieces are needed, and potentially I could get the Shaw Trust involved as well.
Angela?
Yeah, so I'm Angela Cooper. I'm associate priest in the East Vale ministry area, but going to be moved to the Cowbridge ministry area in September. I've been the lead on Croeso Cowbridge for the last probably 3 years now. And I have helped sort of manage the project as it's moved forward and maintain the project, I would say, during the pandemic. So we're looking to welcome a family very soon. So I'll fill you in on more later about that. Thank you.
Steph?
Hi everybody, my name is Steph Davis and I'm the acting head teacher at Llansanner and Llanharry Primary School. I've worked alongside Angela for parts of the Croeso Cowbridge, and our children have been involved as well in the Croeso Cowbridge project, and hopefully we can be involved with this project as well, and our pupils can get involved that way as well.
Sian?
Afternoon all, Sian Bolton. I'm a member of the congregation in Pontyclun. Thank you.
Kimi?
Hi everyone, I'm Kimi. I'm Richard's colleague at Citizens UK, project officer at Sponsor Refugees. My role is to support groups like Croeso Cowbridge and hopefully you guys through the sponsorship process. I'm here in Hannah's place because she's on annual leave, but I'm really honoured to meet all of you and I'm really excited to see where you're taking this.
And last but not least, Alex.
Thanks, Mother Rose. My name is Alex Davies-Jones. I'm the MP for Pontypridd, which covers Llanharry, Pontyclun, Talygarn, and I'm here to support the project and you guys in whatever endeavour you plan to do and add whatever I can with my voice to the aim.
Lovely, thank you. So, Richard, who would we like to go first to tell us a little bit about more about community sponsorship?
Well, I think perhaps I mean, Angela and Kimmy, I think have both got presentations that they're going to share. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Angela and Kimmy, I think it probably makes most sense if Kimmy goes first and sort of gives the outline of like, how does this all work in theory, how some other groups have done it, but then also then we hear from the experience of Croeso Cowbridge. Does that make sense? That order, you happy with that?
Yes.
Brilliant.
So I'm just going to try and share my screen. Actually, Rose, would you mind making me co-host, please?
Yes, no worries.
Right, we'll try. Can you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Then I think we should be good to go. So I wanted to start with a bit of a background and history of sponsorship. In the UK, we're very much inspired by the Canadian model, which was set up in 1979 as a response to all the refugees that arrived from Vietnam. And since then, 300,000 people have been resettled in Canada. And every third person in Canada knows someone who has been resettled, which I personally think is a deeply impressive number. In the UK, the story is came a bit later, but it's not entirely dissimilar. So in 2014, the UK government responded to the refugee crisis by introducing the VPRS scheme, which David Cameron then in 2015 significantly expanded and pledged to resettle 20,000 Syrian refugees by 2020. And Citizens UK played a really instrumental role in pushing the government to introduce the community sponsorship scheme and kind of use Canada as an ideal model to follow. And they decided to do that, which is why we're able to be here today and talk about community sponsorship. And the first group launched in 2016 in Lambeth in South London. And in 2017, Sponsor Refugees was launched. So Sponsor Refugees, as I explained, is a project of Citizens UK. And we work with groups across the UK to help them welcome and settle refugee families in groups' local neighbourhoods. And as per 2020, 449 refugees had been welcomed in the UK. And there are currently around 277, I believe the number currently is 277 groups in the UK, where some have already welcomed and some are in the process. And Angela can talk a bit about that later. So what is community sponsorship? It's a government scheme that allows ordinary citizens, like everyone on this call, to say, I want to welcome and settle a family in my local neighbourhood. I don't have to wait for the government. I don't have to wait for anyone. I can just take power into my own hands and make a difference in a refugee family's life. I have added a fairly long quote from Susanna Baker from the Pigwell Foundation on the right-hand side. I just think it's a really beautiful quote and really explains the impact and the difference that community sponsorship makes, not just in the lives of the families that are resettled, but also the communities that they settle in. It's a beautiful way to come together as a community and build those bonds. I want to talk a little bit about the process in a bit, but I'd love to give you some context from a group in West Wales, Talygarn, from Croeso Cymru. Can you hear the sound?
trip to Calais, because it's quite easy, lots of people in Pembrokeshire were going out to volunteer there. And it changed my direction. And when I came to leave, it hit me that the people I'd made friends with had no future. They had no home and no life and no legality, and it was heartbreaking. I thought surely some of those could come home with us to Wales.
نحن بفترة طبعا ما حسيت بالغربة. أي طفل بيحتاج رياحة نفسية، بيحتاج يلعب، بيحتاج يدرس.
The children speak both Welsh and English, so they're now getting trilingual.
What easy one?
Everyone said, oh, you can't expect to learn 2 new languages at once, but they have. And the school are very proud of their achievements, both in the Welsh and academically.
It's me, Remas. I love cardigan. I love cardigan.
في الحقيقة هون تحس حالك يعني معليش إنه أنت تحس حالك حقوقك كإنسان، في لك احترام، في لك هيك بيحترموك، بيحسسوك إنك أنت عن جد يعني.
We're doing what an extended family would do, and from my perspective, I have that relationship with them, and so do others. It's not a temporary relationship, but it's not a relationship of one-way support. It's a mutual friendship.
Thank you very much for coming to this rather spontaneous and informal event. We hope to learn a little bit about Syrian cookery.
Can you help me?
The generosity of people is, to be honest, both moving and breathtaking.
Oh, a lot of Indianity there. Oh,
ولا حسيت بإن استقبال الجروب لنا بطريقة بحيث نحس بوضع غربة، بوضع إنه نحن بعيدين عن بلادنا.
جروب يعتبر عائلتي الثانية هون.
Community sponsorship is a lovely thing to do. It's very rewarding. It's a little kernel of perfection, but it's too small in Britain. This is too good to waste. It should spread.
Great. So we will move on to a bit about the community sponsorship process. I thought I'd just mention that Inas, who is the mother of the second family that the group resettled, has actually just published a Syrian cookery book that people can now buy with her favorite poems. She was studying literature in Syria before they arrived. So she's had the privilege of publishing her cookbook, which we're very excited about. So a bit about the community sponsorship process, and I apologize if some of this information is you're already familiar with it, but I thought I'd give you a bit of background anyway. So the very first task is building a group, because as the name suggests, it's a community effort, and the people can really come from anywhere. We have groups that are from faith institutions, or just a group of neighbors or friends or colleagues, so it can really take any form. And we usually suggest that the core team is around 8 to 10 members. And when I say core team, we're really talking about the people that are sort of the core pillars and take on the core responsibilities in the group, such as, for instance, the project lead, the treasurer, a safeguarding lead, benefits lead, so kind of the more heavy roles, if you will. And then sort of as you go through the process, you'll attract more people as you raise awareness of your project, you start fundraising, people will join in various capacities. And it's always really beneficial if you can find people who already have skills in a particular role. So if you are treasurer, it's ideal if you have some sort of finance background. And we also really encourage groups, even if they already know each other as they form the community sponsorship group, to continue to strengthen the group and have one-to-ones and understanding each other's motivations for being in the group. It's a project where you're dealing with incredibly vulnerable people. There are many difficult decisions to be made throughout. So it's really important that there is ongoing communication. Then you have to fundraise £9,000. It's a requirement from the Home Office, and I know it sounds like a scary, huge amount, but actually it has turned out, it has proven to be the easiest part of the journey. We had one group in the north of England who fundraised that money in a matter of a weekend. I'm not saying that's every group, but it's just to say that it doesn't necessarily have to take years and years to fundraise that. And it's a really, really excellent group building exercise, and it's a great way to raise awareness of your project. And groups have gotten really, really innovative. So in Buckinghamshire, we had a group who got, God knows where they got them from, but a bunch of exercise bikes, and they put them up in the city centre, and over the course of a weekend they cycled the distance between Buckinghamshire and Aleppo, and everyone who passed the exercise bikes were encouraged to cycle a few miles. And I thought it was such an excellent way of getting your local community involved, and at the same time answer any questions that people might have, because you do want to rally your local community and you do want them to be supportive, because ultimately this is going to be the new home of the family. But we are more than happy to share more inspiring stories about fundraising activities, so that's always something we can support on. You also have to choose what we call a lead sponsor. So all groups have one of two choices. You can either set up as a charity in your own right, or perhaps you're already part of a charity and then that's the one you should go with, or you can choose something called a lead sponsor. So a lead sponsor is a charity organisation who will sign the legal agreement with the Home Office to support the family. So the lead sponsor goes in and kind of acts on behalf of the group and says, in case there's a breakdown of the group, fortunately this has never happened, I want to stress that, but in the unlikely event that would happen, the lead sponsor is then responsible for supporting the family. So it's really important that you have a lead sponsor with lots of experience of supporting community sponsorship groups. So Citizens UK are the lead sponsor for more than 40 groups in the UK, and we support around 100. But there are different lead sponsors across the UK. So if you want to look into that, I'm happy to share the different offerings. You will also need to get consent from your local authority. It's an incredibly important relationship to build, because the local authority is really instrumental in the resettling process of the family. Often they already have experience of resettlement, but they also are the ones that apply for funding for ESOL classes and for school funding and things like that. So it's really important to have a strong relationship with them. And if you are having challenges, it's really important to have them on board. And fortunately, our partners, Reset is a Home Office mandated organisation that we work very closely with. As I always say, I email Reset as often as I email my own colleagues. And they're always really happy to speak to your local authority before you reach out and kind of prep them so they understand what community sponsorship is. Because as it stands, many local authorities haven't yet done community sponsorship, so they might be unfamiliar with the scheme. So it's always nice to have an experienced organisation to go in and sort of explain what it means. And then the group will need to obtain consent from the local authority. The local authority will also have to inspect, for instance, the property that you find for the family. So they are involved throughout the process. And as I just mentioned, you would also need to find a property. And this is one of perhaps the more challenging bits, depending on where you are. So you will have to find a property for the family. It can be of any size, because it is the size of the property that determines the family you're matched with, and not the other way around. So you won't, for instance, welcome a family of, say, 5 people if the property can only accommodate 3. So you have to find a property. The property must be available for 2 years from the date that the family arrives. And that's, of course, to make sure that as they settle in, they don't all of a sudden have to move and uproot themselves. The property should also be available at local housing allowance rates. Some groups do decide to top up the rent, but some local authorities are really opposed to that idea, because it means that the family might get an unrealistic idea of what universal credit can essentially get them. And then, as I mentioned, the local authority should be invited to inspect a property to ensure it's suitable for the family. And then finally, you need to submit an application to the Home Office. It's a fairly, I must say, a fairly long and in-depth application form. It's around 25 pages, where you will outline how you intend to support the family in all different aspects of the resettlement process, whether it's ESOL classes of employment, universal credit, housing, and what are kind of your long-term plans, and how do you envision the support kind of post-agreement and things like that. Once you've submitted, it should take about a month, sometimes 2, before you get your approval. And once you have your approval, it usually takes about a week or 2 before you're matched with a family. And you will then receive all the details of the family, the makeup of the family, their medical history. And then it's up to the group to say, do we feel we have the capacity to support this family? Say, for instance, they have very complex needs, complex medical needs. Do we feel we're in a position to support this family? And once you've decided that you're happy with this family, the Home Office then go ahead and say, yes, UNHCR, we're happy with this family, and within 6 to 8 weeks, the family will arrive in the UK. And then starts the real work of welcoming and supporting the family. So, of course, you have the great privilege of going to the airport and welcoming the family, and saying you're finally here in your new country, in your new home, and you take them back to the property and show them around, and show them, of course, where everything is. And very importantly, the Wi-Fi password, always the first thing that people ask for. And the things that you have to support them with is, it's a long list. I've tried to summarize it in a little blue box on the right. So they need support on health, signing up to a GP and a dentist. The children, you will need to find school places for the children if they do in fact have school-aged children. You will help them sign up for universal credit, which I've heard is quite a headache. So whoever takes that role, I hope they have some sort of background or understanding of the system, because it can be tricky. And then, of course, they need support with employment and volunteering, social and cultural orientation, what kind of neighborhood do they live in, show them around, familiarize them with their surroundings. And of course, make sure that they're happy and functioning. And of course, I want to say that Sponsor Refugees are always here to support you in all of this. We've seen groups go through this many times. So we're always happy to help with that. And then, of course, as you kind of come to an end of the official agreement, which is 1 year of official support, followed by another year of what we kind of call unofficial support. In that time, you of course need to prepare the family for independence, because ultimately your role is to help them resettle, but it's not to carry them through life. They are very resilient, independent people, so they are very capable. Then I am talking about what Sponsor Refugees can help with. We've set up a portal upon request from people, because I've just gone through a very long, difficult process. And the portal that we've developed is a step-by-step guide to community sponsorship. So it's divided into 5 different sections, kind of building a group and preparing your application and welcoming and things like that. And for each module, there will be something on, say, for instance, fundraising or DBS checks, or how to find employment, or how to help them get a driving license. So the portal is a really good kind of go-to one-stop shop for everything related to community sponsorship, and it is free to sign up to and use. So happy to send you the link, and then you can go through it as you see fit. And that was it. I'm very happy to take questions. I'm just, for some reason it won't let me stop sharing. There we go. So I've spoken a lot. I hope I haven't gone over time, but happy to take any questions.
Well, shall we hear from Angela from how that sort of played out in Cowbridge, and then perhaps take questions and comments following that? Would that make sense? Does that sound okay?
Yeah. I was just going to talk you through the story of Croeso Cowbridge, how that fits in with what Kimmy has told us about the process of welcoming a family. So our journey started, I think it was 2017. I can't remember, Richard. I don't think you were involved at that point, but we had a bit of a false start, to be honest, and I suppose some groups do as well. We had an open meeting in Cowbridge. The project is actually a Vale of Glamorgan Deanery project, but we felt because Cowbridge was the biggest town in the Vale of Glamorgan that it would be focused on Cowbridge. So we had an open meeting to judge the community to start with about whether they thought it was feasible to do this project. And we invited lots of people, and we advertised it widely in Cowbridge, and we got a whole hall full of people that day that were interested in some way in the project from all different areas of the wider Cowbridge area. And we did some mapping. We looked at the viability of Cowbridge to welcome a family. We looked at all the community groups that we might want to engage with as the project progressed. And we looked at those stages that Kimmy's talked about, the stages of going through the project and building the team. And we had a really exciting day. We had lots of enthusiasm, but for some reason, I was just on the periphery of the project at that time. It kind of just thought, yeah, this is great. And then we needed somebody to do something about it. So a little while later, I was asked, would I take some of the lead on the project? And we had to reinvigorate that enthusiasm again with another open meeting, because I think with community sponsorship, the community does have to feel involved and have had to have their say on what they feel about having a family within their community. So these bigger open meetings are important. Now, the decision we made to welcome a family to Cowbridge meant that we would have to add some extra to the rent for the house because of the house and rental property prices in Cowbridge. So we started from the start knowing that we'd have to fundraise more than £9,000, and we estimated how much extra we would need. So our initial target was for £15,000. So we weren't going to progress any further until we'd got that money in place. And what I felt was great about the fundraising is that that's your community engagement, isn't it? Because you get people to events, you can give a little talk about the project, you can reach out to people in fundraising. And we also thought it'd be really nice to do small fundraisers across the community. So you are actually then reaching more people. You might not get as much money in one fundraising, but you raising that awareness across the community. So we had schools involved, we involved Llansanna, and the other church schools in the deanery. They all did non-uniform days. So one of us went in and did a worship or an assembly for them, and that got that word out further. Llansanna, because it was a church school within the benefice, designed us a logo, which is the logo we use now. I have got a picture here, but it might be too difficult to share it, but perhaps I'll share it at the end. And then we had some larger events, a couple of concerts across the deanery and coffee mornings, things like that. All these little things brought the money in and also widened the reach of the project. And well, we had two just before lockdown, actually, two good fundraisers. One was a Syrian food evening for the Oasis, which is a charity in Cardiff, provided the food for the evening. And also, I can't remember the man's name, but he shared his story of coming to this country, and that had a big impact on those people, because sharing stories brings it more to reality, doesn't it, about what these people have gone through. So that was a good one. And the final fundraiser we did was the week before lockdown in March 2020. We had a concert in Peterston. So all these events are important, I think, to get that message across and to get people on board with the project. And we had a lot of support. We did really well. Even in lockdown, we had the grants coming in and things from trust funds, etc., etc. And in the end, like Kimmy said, the fundraising isn't really the most difficult part if you kind of spread it wide across the group. But what I would also say at some of the fundraisers, we took people's emails address, we kept contact with those people that had wanted to support that event. So, you know, I've got a huge, like 70 people on an email group that I send regularly out updates about the project. And it's amazing how as the project has progressed and people can see that the family is arriving soon, they're now stepping up and saying, oh, I want to help when the family comes, I can do this, I can do that. So it's really good to just keep a track of all those people that engaged with the fundraising. So alongside that, I decided that I'd put together a core group, because we need the 12 people for the application, but we had a core group of 4 that started working on the application as the fundraising was going on. So we were trying to get ahead of the game, really, and do some of the application, because it is quite a long application, and also to get the council on board. And to be honest, that's been our most difficult part of the project, is getting the council on board with the project. We've been interrogated many times by the man in there, the Vale Council, you know, quite rightly as well, because, you know, they'll have to take some responsibility for the family when they arrive. And we eventually, after about 6 months, had our project signed off by the council, but we've now had a little wait for them to sign off our property that we've got. So we really are at the exciting phase of we're actually waiting now for the family to be assigned to us. So yes, the core group worked together, and then we had a wider group taking on responsibilities for like safeguarding, benefits, health, all the areas where we needed people. We found people from the wider community that were interested. And not all church people. Some people keep telling us it's a church project, but it's not. We're a really wide project. We've got people from the Rotary, from the Lions Club, and all across Cowbridge, different people volunteering. So we found a house reasonably quickly, which surprised us, and because we'd been working with Kimmy in her organisation, we had like a little pack ready to give to the landlady all about the project, so she would understand that we wanted this 2-year lease and understand that the family would be coming and we would be supporting them when they arrive. So that really helped her make the decision to say, yes, I want you to have the property. So, you know, all the work that you do in the background, when you come to the crunch and you've got the information, it always helps to help people make a decision about it. So the house is ready, it's signed off. We are actually renting it now because you need to have it in place before you can get the Home Office full approval. And also, people have been so generous. It's virtually furnished as well from donations from all aspects of Cowbridge and beyond. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's also been really rewarding to see that the hard work we did with the fundraising and reaching out to community is now coming to fruition with people really excited and wanting to help in the stage when the family arrives. I'm not sure whether I've got anything else to add to that, or just that we've had lots of support from obviously Citizens Cymru Wales and from Sponsor Refugees, and all through lockdown. I think Pam Haynes has been on every Friday lunch training, and I've popped in when I can. But the support you get is second to none, and